I still remember the exact moment my peaceful Saturday morning turned into a circus, and not the fun kind either. More like the kind where the ringleader shows up at your door waving a ticket and telling you you're the clown. I was just sitting there on my back deck nursing my coffee, watching that pinkish sun creep up over Crystal Lake, thinking for once I'd get a quiet day to myself. Then I heard the mailbox slamming shut. Weird, I thought, since mail doesn't run on weekends. That's the first gut punch. Little did I know it was only round one. I strolled down the driveway, already halfway expecting something dumb, and sure enough, when I opened that rusty old box, there it was. This crisp, official-looking envelope with the HOA seal. Inside notice of fine $150,000. Yeah, you heard that right, 150 grand. For what you ask. According to Karen Fitzgerald, our HOA president and self-appointed queen of Lakeshore Estates, I'd conducted a commercial event on my residential property without a permit and committed the unspeakable crime of unauthorized business activity. All I'd done was invite a dozen friends over for a barbecue. We grilled some burgers, tossed beanbags around, took my boat out on the water, and laughed till our faces hurt. That was it, but Karen, in her never-ending quest to wring every ounce of power out of her little empire, called that operating an unlicensed event venue. She even took photos from her property, snapping away like a wildlife photographer who spotted some rare, dangerous creature. I guess to her, 12 people means I'm running a business. And the signature on the bottom, hers, of course, big looping and smug as can be. I crumpled the letter in my fist. This wasn't the first time Karen had tried to throw her weight around, but it was the first time I'd ever seen her push this far. When I moved here 2 years ago, I thought I'd found heaven on earth. Lakeshore Estates nestled along Crystal Lake, towering pines, clean air, a little community dock where neighbors would gather on summer nights. I left all the chaos of the city for this. I thought maybe the world still had pockets of peace left in it. What I didn't realize was that paradise came with a troll at the gate, and her name was Karen Fitzgerald. Karen's been HOA president for 6 years, mostly because no one else wants the job and she knows it. She likes to call herself a guardian of standards, but the only standard she ever cared about was her own ego. Her favorite catchphrases for the good of the community: protecting our property values. You hear those enough times, you start to dream about them. She'd micromanage everything from mailbox colors to how many garden gnomes you could have in your yard. But what she loved more than rules was that damn boat of hers, a huge purple and gold 28-foot monstrosity, Queen of the Lake, splashed across the side, parked right in the middle of the dock like it owned the place. She'd hog that dock for hours, loading up gear at a glacial pace while the rest of us sat around waiting for a turn to get in the water. The engines on that thing could wake the dead. But nobody said anything because everyone knew what happened to folks who got on Karen's bad side: fines, threats, passive-aggressive emails. She made herself untouchable. I tried to play nice. I called a meeting with the HOA board, figuring maybe reason would win out. But the board's just Karen and her 4 loyal pets folks who wouldn't say boo unless she told them to. I explained that my event was just a bunch of friends, showed them pictures, tried to keep my cool. Karen sat there at the head of the table, lips so tight they could have snapped. The bylaws are quite clear, she droned, highlighting some section in radioactive yellow. Any gathering over 10 people needs prior approval and permits, and your use of motorized watercraft without commercial insurance constitutes a liability. I nearly laughed out loud, but one look at the other board members sitting there like deer in headlights told me this was pointless. Meeting adjourned, fine upheld. But out in the parking lot, Tom Harrison lives a few doors down, usually keeps his head down, pulled me aside. "You're not the first one she's targeted," he muttered. "Last year she fined the Johnsons $20,000 for renting a bounce house for their kid's birthday. They just moved out rather than fight it. But between you and me, Jim at the marina says her boat might not be as legal as she thinks. Might be worth digging into." That was the match on the fuse. The next 3 weeks I buried myself in paperwork: the HOA bylaws, which should be classified as a sleep aid, county reg, state boating laws, the conservation documents for Crystal Lake. And that's where I found it, the twist I never saw coming. Crystal Lake's been a protected watershed since '98. Strict rules: single engines, max 150 horsepower, no boats over 22 feet. Karen's monster twin 300 horsepower engines and a 28-foot hull quadruple the legal horsepower, 6 feet too long, and not a single environmental permit on file. The kicker: every boat needs a public annual permit, but Queen Karen never bothered to file even one. So I called the State Department of Natural Resources. Got a hold of Linda Martinez, who sounded almost giddy at the chance to nail someone this blatantly breaking the rules. We take conservation violations seriously, she told me with this little edge to her voice that made me think she'd been waiting for a call like mine. I told her when Karen usually launched noon to 4 every Saturday and Sunday, always making a show of it, and sent her photos of the boat engines, the works. She said an inspection team would be there soon. Saturday rolled around, perfect weather lake, sparkling like a sheet of glass. I parked myself on the deck, coffee and binoculars in hand, pretending to be bird watching, though really I was waiting for the main event. Sure enough, Karen showed up in full fishing queen regalia, parading down the ramp, boat in tow. At 12:30, as she was firing up the engines, 2 state trucks pulled into the lot. 4 inspectors in uniform, clipboards, badges, the whole deal. I watched as they made their way down to the dock, flashing credentials, asking questions, measuring everything, taking photos. Karen's voice started out loud and cocky. You could hear her all the way across the water, dropping names and threatening lawsuits, telling them her cousin's some bigwig state senator. The inspectors didn't blink. One measured the engines and shook her head. Another ran a tape measure down the hull. Residents started to gather, watching this unfold like it was the 4th of July parade. After about 45 minutes, they handed Karen a thick stack of paperwork. Even from where I was sitting, I could see her whole posture collapse. The boat sat there abandoned while Karen marched back to her car looking like someone had kicked her dog. Fallout came fast. 3 days later, a notice popped up on the community bulletin board. By order of the state queen of the lake, was permanently banned from Crystal Lake for multiple conservation violations. Too much horsepower, too long. No permits, environmental risk. Karen had a week to get it out or face $500 daily fines. But the real fireworks were just starting. Turns out, as HOA president, she'd exempted herself from the same rules she used to bludgeon everyone else. That's a breach of fiduciary duty, and the HOA's insurance company, smelling blood in the water, launched their own investigation. Next board meeting was standing room only. For once, Karen sat with the rest of us. No throne, no minions. Patricia Stone, the board's attorney, stood up and read out a list of every violation, every instance Karen had put the community at risk. The fines she'd levied, including mine, were declared null and void, possibly grounds for a harassment suit. Tom, shaking but proud, made the motion to rescind every fine Karen had issued in 2 years. Unanimous. Then the big one: remove Karen as president effective immediately. Unanimous again. You ever see a villain lose everything in slow motion? Karen went from red to purple to ghostly white. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," she screeched, but her voice cracked and everyone just stared. Patricia delivered the last blow. The state had referred the whole mess to the Attorney General, and Karen could be facing $25,000 in penalties personally. There she was in the doorway, hand gripping the frame, mouth working but no sound coming out. All the noise, all the threats, none of it mattered anymore. She bolted out to her car, boat still stranded, her little empire crumbling behind her. And I'll be honest with you, the sense of relief, of vindication, it was overwhelming, but there was this other feeling too, like if it could happen to Karen, it could happen to anybody who thinks the rules only apply to everyone else. These days, the dock's peaceful again, the community actually talks to each other, and even the air feels lighter. But you know, some folks still whisper about what happened, about whether justice really got served, or if the next queen will just play by a different set of rules. So, what do you think? Did the punishment fit the crime? Or was it all just another neighborhood circus? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, I'm still not sure what's crazier, the drama or the fact that all I wanted was a quiet Saturday by the lake.